Welcome to Farsight's Time Cross Project, one of the most interesting and indeed profound experiments ever conducted by humankind, and that is not an exaggeration. Give me a moment to explain why this is so. I am Courtney Brown, director of the Farsight Institute, and here we are using a process known as remote viewing to accurately see into the future, in a sense, to bring you tomorrow's news today. We have a few remote viewers who are what we like to call scary good at doing this. The Time Cross project comes out with new results each month, and each overlapping edition takes 3 months to complete. Now, using an example of month 1, month 2, and month 3, in month 1, our remote viewers remote view the most important newsworthy events that are to happen in month 2, the next month. The remote viewing sessions are recorded live on video, and they are published on YouTube on the last day of month 1, which maintains a published timestamp so that the public can be certain that the sessions were done during month 1. Now, during month 2, we use an automated process involving news analysis that the public can follow to list the most newsworthy events of the month. And then, in month 3, we review our news data and our remote viewing sessions to see how well we did. Remember that when the remote viewers do their sessions during month 1, they have no idea what these major news events for the next month may be, since the events are in the future. And ultimately, we are trying to use remote viewing to describe in advance a spectrum of the most important news events that will happen in a month, the major news events before they happen. Now, to help identify the most newsworthy events for the month, we count the number of days that each major news event stays in the headlines in 4 major internet news outlets: CNN International, CNN US, the New York Times, and the BBC. But seeing how long a news story stays in the headlines does not measure how widespread the coverage is for the event. So we also count the number of related links to each event's story, links that emanate from the main page of the news source. An event that has, say, 6 links to stories related to that event would be a bigger news event than an event that has only 1 link. So we measure how long an event stays on the headlines and how many related stories are connected to that event for each of those days, adding up all of the links and publishing a total at the end of the month. Now, using this procedure, the most newsworthy events for the month are normally easy to see. We also keep screenshots of all of the news outlets' main news web pages so that the data in the table can be checked and replicated after the fact. Thus, no person is picking the targets for this project. Since we started this project, we began to see that there were major news stories that were not covered well or even at all by our major news outlets. And this is probably due to the budget cutting in news venues these days, leading to the domination of commentary and talking heads. Also, we have found that our featured news outlets can appear to have regional or other biases that result in them not reporting on certain events, even events that are hugely important on face value and which are widely covered in other mainstream news outlets. So, in our news analysis table, we also include events that are not covered well in our featured news outlets, and we link to those other news outlets that do cover the events. Ultimately, we want to use the table to list the most interesting and important news events for each month, and then to have our remote viewers report on a number of those events. The expectation is that the descriptions of the events given in the remote viewing reports will be obvious and detailed enough to clearly identify which events are covered each month. Also, our expectation is that the events that occur over time, month after month, will be widely diverse, and our remote viewing descriptions will correctly describe the major news events that occur in each given month. And you can watch how the remote viewing descriptions closely correspond to those events as the months proceed with new and very different events occurring each month. But what about some news events that capture much of the attention in the news, but they do not make it into our news analysis table? For example, why did the Brexit vote in the United Kingdom not make it into our table for June 2016? Well, Brexit was not included for a number of reasons. First, it was a scheduled event that was in the calendar of every major news organization and talked about in advance. That violates one of the rules of our Time Cross project that prohibits scheduled events. Now, second, Brexit was not an event that involved physical activity with people or things. This is another rule in our project. The event should involve significant physical activity by objects and subjects. Quite simply, we do not know how to remote view an idea in a manner that would be acceptable for this project. Brexit is an idea, a vote. While I acknowledge that it is possible for a remote viewer to perceive an idea or concept, we train to remote view physical things like people, places, and activity. A concept like a vote is out of our normal skill set, even if it is possible in theory. The remote viewers are expecting to describe places and people and activity. A vote decision has none of that. These are the reasons Brexit is not in the table, and these reasons are clearly stated within the published rules for the project. Now, sometimes people ask why we are not trying to remote view a single future event with this project, such as the most important single news event for a given month. Well, when we began this experiment back in May 2016, we originally thought that this might be possible, but as our experiment has evolved over the run of its first year, we discovered that the remote viewers were being attracted to a variety of future events for each given month, and there was essentially nothing we could do to change that given the structure of the experimental design. All of the events described by the remote viewers do indeed occur in the correct month, and that is good. But the viewers tend not to report on the same event or events. Because of our past research into the remote viewing phenomenon, we do know how to control the perceptions of our remote viewers such that they do perceive the same event when a tasker, or the person who picks the target, is fully aware of the target event and is able to isolate that event in his or her mind when choosing the target. And this is true even if the tasker picks the target in the future, that is, after the remote viewing sessions have been completed and the pool of possible events have occurred, with all appropriate scientific controls for blind tasking applied. This was a feature of our Multiple Universes project, and you can read about this project in a peer-reviewed article, plus watch an associated explanatory video, all available on our website and also linked in the description area below this video that you are watching now. But the experimental conditions are different for our Time Cross project, and we cannot control the viewer's perceptions to get them to all focus on the same target like we did in the Multiple Universes project. First, there is no human tasker to pick or isolate a single target event, and it is not clear how to define the most important event in a given month. The most important event for one person may not be the most important event for another person. And indeed, our continuously featured news outlets for the project, CNN, the New York Times, and the BBC, sometimes appear to ignore what we consider hugely important events for reasons that we do not fully understand, even when other major news outlets cover those events extensively. For Time Cross, since the events have not occurred when the sessions are being done, and since the intent of the remote viewers is to remote view an important newsworthy event for the next month, and since there is no universally accepted definition of what may or may not be the single most important event for a given month, And since there is no human tasker to isolate a single event from the pool of all major events that occur in a given month, the viewers are free to locate the focus of their perceptions on different major events for a given month. And that is what they do. The result is that we have a spectrum of remote viewing news reports for important news events for each given month, reported to you the month before the events happened. And as it turns out, that is really interesting, and it is exactly what we want our remote viewers to do. This is especially valuable when there is enough detail in the remote viewing data to unambiguously identify unique characteristics of each news event, and then to repeat this process across a series of events, month after month. Each experimental design produces a certain type of result. Our time-cross experimental design produces interesting results that are valuable in terms of understanding how remote viewing works, as well as in terms of demonstrating to a skeptical public that remote viewing is real using current and high-impact newsworthy events as targets. If you watch it closely, month after month, it is addictive in an intellectually mature and healthy sense. Remote viewing is a mental process that was developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. The Farsight Institute is the most respected civilian scientific venue for full public projects using remote viewing. And if you want to know more about remote viewing, I encourage you to visit our website, where you will find a huge amount of information. Understand that remote viewing sessions are rarely 100% accurate. Viewers can be on target part of the time and drift off target or misinterpret data. They can perceive perfectly good data and then have their conscious minds color or embellish it. That's just how remote viewing works, no matter how good the viewer. Part of the purpose of this experiment is to gauge our performance on important targets that no one could possibly know about in advance. Doing this also allows us to demonstrate that our commonly accepted concept of linear, three-dimensional time is an illusion. And since what we do is real, our results are far cooler than any science fiction story. I hope you continue to watch the results of our monthly Time Cross project. It is one of the most interesting remote viewing projects ever attempted. Also, I hope you get a chance to watch some of our mysteries projects. We are offering our Time Cross project free to the public as a way of demonstrating the reality and potential of remote viewing. It costs us a few $1,000s each month to do this. So, your help by watching our mysteries projects and by contributing to the Farsight Institute allows us to pay the bills. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Keep an open mind, something we all need. I am Courtney Brown, Director of the Farsight Institute. Thanks for following our activities.